Hello there, Efren here. So I'm going to be going in this video the latest and greatest of the PPP applicants for round one or for the second draw. Really quickly here, this has been published recently, and I'm going to go over in depth right here really quick. So as of January 8th, which is today, the SBA has released a lot of information and final interim rules. So really quickly, I'm going to go over some rules and regulations of who qualifies, where do I apply, and what are some rules and regulations that govern this, okay? So for first timers that don't know what this program is, really quickly, if this PPP was first passed into law by Congress on March 30th of 2020 to give some relief to the gig workers, self-employed, independent contractors, medium-sized to some large-sized businesses that were affected by COVID or were thinking of getting affected by COVID. Now, who would apply for this is if you are in business for yourself, if it's just you or your spouse, you or your girlfriend, or if you have up to an X amount of employees that I'm going to go over, you should apply for this. If you were out doing Ubering and stuff like that, you consider it a small business. You consider it a small business of that nature. So those will be the people that should apply and whatnot. Now, who administers this program? It is administered by the SBA, which is abbreviated for Small Business Administration. That organization administers it at a federal level. You won't be applying directly to them. You'll be applying to other entities, which leads me to my next question. Where did you apply? You would apply to any bank, credit union, local community banks, smaller, bigger, or medium sizes, any of this nature. Also, some of this fintech companies, banks that are out there that are only based online that do have some of these abilities to give out loans and whatnot. Now, as of January 6th and today, January 8th, again, the SBA has released a lot of interim rules. The first portion is 82 pages long, which gives a lot of information on first applicants, how they're going to apply and whatnot, and also gives a lot of clarification on how first applicants and second-time applicants are going to be able to apply or obtain forgiveness. Additionally, there was another section of 42 pages long. That one was more like rules and regulations and clarifying on how applicants are going to apply for the second draw. Okay, so the following information I'm going to go over is if you're going to apply for the first time, all right? So pause the video, rewind it, take a pause, get a piece of paper or something like that to write down some of this information if you're going to apply for it the first time. So it's going to be named First Draw PPP. That's going to be somewhere in the forms or somewhere in there for agents in the SBA are going to be able to know if you're going to apply for the first time around or you're going to get the second round. Number two, the maximum amount you're able to obtain as a first applicant this time around is $10 million, similar to previous. Okay. Number three, you would have to be in operation on or before February 15th of 2020. They didn't want you to start a business right after the program and be like, okay, I'm in business now and take advantage of this. So it was for businesses prior to this event. Number four, you have to have 500 employees or less. For all those restaurants, flower shops, or any kind of business that has multiple locations, you can apply for each multiple location as long as that location has 500 employees or less. The mathematics are very simple. It's as similar as before. You will be taking your gross receipts or your gross revenue for your self-employed, your Schedule C. You'll be taking what your adjusted income. You will multiply that. You will divide that by 12. And then that number you get, you would multiply it by 2.5. And then that's the amount you should receive for PPP. Now, this may differentiate if you're a seasonal worker. Seasonal workers have slightly different mathematics. I'm not going to go over into that very deep, as it's not very circulated very well or not very in detail. And every institution, which is bad, has a little slightly different mathematics. Now, a big bonus for all hotels and restaurants that are wanting to get the first or second draw. This time around, you'll be getting 3.5 times your payroll or income. It makes sense since restaurants and hotels are the industries that are most affected by COVID pandemic. Now, the following conditions I'm going to go over is if you're going to apply for a second draw. Very, very, very important. Pause the video or go back and go and take some of this information. Now, before I go over it, if you like my information or you like my video, please consider subscribing or sharing this video to someone family member that may find some value in this. Alrighty, so obviously this is going to be named second draw PPP. Just wanted to make that very obvious. For second draw applicants, you won't be able to receive no more than $2 million. It's capped at $2 million. Number 3, you have to have 300 employees or less. This also goes similar to what I said earlier, 300 or less per location if you have multiple locations. Now, if you only have one for both of these, first and second, if you only yourself, that's fine. You yourself. Now, if you have a friend or a girlfriend or someone that does it with you, that's fine. It's considered second employee. Number 4, you have to have used or you'll be using your first round of PPP funds. Number 5, it's not required, it's not needed to obtain forgiveness of the first round of PPP. We all know that just because the SBA has been dishing out different variations and rules and stuff like that, and it's not quite there to get forgiveness. Number 6, when you do the mathematics and calculations for the second draw, don't include the first PPP in this mathematics. When you're going to draw what your income was for 2020 or whatnot, don't include the first round of PPP. And that's only for second applicants. Number 7, this is the bread and butter. To obtain a second draw of PPP, you have to prove a reduction of gross receipts of minimum of 25%. Let me repeat that again. You have to prove that you had a reduction in business sales, revenues, gross receipts, not net, gross, of minimum of 25%. In one quarter, any quarter you can choose, any quarter in 2020 compared to 2019. So that's kind of neat. They make you choose which quarter in 2020 you can use to compare to a quarter in 2019. Which that should be easy if you were truly affected by COVID-19, that you had a reduction of 25% minimum. I mean, the bar is set really low, 25%, that's really low of revenue, gross receipts, sales, and whatnot. Additionally, at the time of recording this video, which is January 8th, the SBA has released some information which it states that it will be accepting applications starting January 11th from local banks, small credit unions, small community banks, minority applicants, and whatnot, just to give them a chance. Everybody that's applying for the first time around, just to give them a chance in a 1 or 2 day head start. It's only a few days compared to last time that it was done, because there was a lot of complaints that the big banks and there was inequality and whatnot. Now, if you're applying for the second time around for a second draw, you will have to wait until January 13th. That's when the gates open for January 13th to start receiving applications. Also, after that date, all the big brand banks, all the fintech companies based out there will start accepting applications. Also, I want to take a brief moment. There's nothing relevant. The EIDL I have no information of the EIDL just yet. Also, keep in mind the PPP starts as a loan and then converts to you have to apply for a forgiveness down the road. But it starts as a loan. Let's not mix up things. And then as you use for eligible expenses, then you apply for forgiveness, which leads me to my next point. What is the forgiveness? How do you apply for the forgiveness? How do I get it? So keep in mind, what I'm going to cover next is ways or expenses that are eligible if you're applying for the first time or the second time. It's the same expense, the same structure if you want to apply for forgiveness. So this time around, they made it much wider, much easier way to obtain forgiveness. So some of the ways that they've done is similar to the past is you need to use minimum of the amount that you receive. 60% minimum of it has to go to payroll. Now, if you're self-employed, you don't do payroll. If it's just you don't do payroll. You would just have to prove that you paid yourselves through the when the income flows through and some of the deductions and other things and stuff like that. I will be updating more in detail as things go on and it dictates, because I know I have a few colleagues and friends that are self-employed. So quick example is obviously if you received 100 grand, 60% of that is 60,000. So minimum of 60,000 you would have to use for payroll expenses. Now, for some reason, if you decide to use more than 60%, 100%, you just made yourself and your application a whole lot easier because you use all of it for expenses, which is it's very more simple. Now, if you have some money left over, or at least a minimum of 40% left, the following list I'm going to go over is eligible expenses that you can go use that remainder amount, or for mathematics, remainder of the 40%. So some of these eligible expenses are rent. If you rent space for your business, office, or whatever, that's a eligible expense. Interest on mortgages. I'm assuming this is for people that work from home. If you're a building owner or something like that, it's a business, that will be something deductible. Bills, utilities, anything with nature with that related to the business, that's an eligible expense for first and second draw. Protective equipment related to COVID-19. The things that come to mind is probably some masks of any nature, sanitizers, gloves, or any other type of gear that's related to that, to COVID-19 for your business. You're the only one that knows that best because you're running your business. Number 5, expenses related to modifying your local office, store, or anything that you modify. And the things that come to mind is maybe put in some clear guards, put in some taping, some ropes around there. That's all eligible expenses. Or those big fancy sanitizing holder machines or whatever. Those are modifications and whatnot. Number 6, if you were affected directly to your physical location for these riotings and protestings that were very aggressive and damaging to properties that happened in the middle of 2020, you can use some of those expenses towards this and whatnot. Number 7 and 8 is more like software and applications that you use day to day on your business, such as this way to charge people, software to take measurements, anything of that nature, or check things or check temperature, anything that's software related in programs, some of the things like that. The other side of the coin, number 8 is the same thing. Subscriptions to storage of software, data, pictures, documents, and files, anything like that, that's now deductible as well. And number 9, you'll be able to deduct for your accountant, bookkeeping, expenses like that. You'll be able to deduct it. Now, some of the other things that are worth mentioning is we all know that there was a new law, COVID relief package, passed and signed in December of 2020. With that being said, it dictated clarified a lot of ways to apply for forgiveness. There's 2 versions, so I'm going to go over both versions. Version number 1, if you want to apply for forgiveness, you would use version 1. If your amount is $150,000 or less, you would apply for it. It's one form, very simple. You would fill it out. It's 4 parts or 4 requisites. Requisite number 1 is the person or entity or business applying for the loan that is $150,000 or less would have to attest saying that this money was needed for their business. The way you would attest is by signing the document, obviously. Part number 2 is you would write the number of employees that you were able to retain because of this PPP funds, being the first or second round. Number 3 is write the estimated amount of payroll that you used for in your business and whatnot. And number 4, write the exact amount, how much money of PPP that you got. Now, by you picking up on that, when you apply for that forgiveness, there's no documentation required. You just fill out that form and send it out and stuff like that. But before you get all happy dandy, let me go over some of this and you'll find out what's the catch on that. Version number 2 is if your loan was greater or funds were greater than $150,000 or greater, you're gonna fill out. I think last time I checked, it was 3 or 5 pages worth of document that you have to fill out. It's more detailed. It's a lot more calculations, more information required because it's a greater amount, and they want to probably audit it a little bit more, and stuff like. I'm not gonna go in coverage very much. I'm not gonna cover this very in detail because in that of itself, it's like a 45-30-minute video alone. And usually the type of people that do these funds and applications or businesses usually have 1 or 2 people on staff that would do this on their behalf anyways. Like I said, some things worth mentioning before wrapping it up here is, number one, keep your documents, all this proof and documents of this application and forgiveness and whatnot. Keep it for the next 4 years. The SBA has the right and may come back and within those 4 years and say, hey, I want to audit you. Can I have those proof that you actually use this this information for this program and one for the PPP? Obviously, I already mentioned a bit below. The number two is on the first application, there's going to be no proof. There's no paperwork required to send or proof or anything like that. They just, you attest. Also, some of the nice thing that is circulating on there is the EIDL is not going to affect no longer the forgiveness mathematics of the PPP. For all you know what I'm talking about, you'll understand. For all you that don't, so before is you will write the amount of PPP that you received minus the EIDL amount. Then that will be your forgiveness amount that you'll be able to apply. Hence, this amount of the EIDL, you would have to return it or pay it back somehow. But with this new law and stuff like that, there's no of that. It doesn't mix and match. So it makes it a lot easier. You actually, the EIDL, which was a grant, you actually get to keep it. But I'll make a video on that. Now, if you like the content that I delivered today and you find it valuable, please consider subscribing to the channel and supporting it. If you have any comments or questions, leave it on the comments for any future reference. Other than that, Efren here, and I hope to see you in the next video, okay?